Hello everyone. We will discuss revaluation. So courtesy to Ma'am Mary Chris Luzada, CPA MSA, for the very nice and very brief but concise PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so revaluation. What is revaluation? Ayan. So, of course, an asset or a property, plant, and equipment is initially measured at cost. Di ba? So, na-discuss natin yan in our lecture in property, plant, and equipment that an asset of property, plant, and equipment is measured initially at cost. So, with regards to its initial measurement, that has already been uh, discussed. Okay? But subsequent to the initial measurement of a property, plant, and equipment, it can be measured at cost model or revaluation model. Okay? So, cost model, so that's gonna be cost less any accumulated depreciation and subsequent accumulated impairment losses. Of course, kapag subsequent to the initial measurement, for example, binili natin yung property, plant, and equipment on February 1. Okay? So, at the time of the purchase of the property, plant, and equipment, it is measured at cost. Now, what if December 31 of the same year, okay, you can measure the same asset using the cost model. So you continue the cost model measurement initially, or you can choose revaluation model. Okay, so if you choose revaluation model as subsequent measurement, in revaluation model, if the fair value of the property, plant, and equipment can be measured reliably, okay, it can be carried at revalued amount. Okay, so technically, we can only carry or measure a property, plant, equipment using the revaluation model if its fair value can be measured reliably. Okay, so the revalued amount, fair value of the date of revaluation minus any subsequent accumulated depreciation and subsequent accumulated impairment losses. Okay, so again kung nag-revaluation model tayo, then the revalued amount is the fair value at the date of revaluation. Kung ano yung fair value at the date of revaluation, yun yung magiging new value of the property. Of course, minus any subsequent accumulated depreciation and subsequent accumulated impairment losses. Okay? Now, the frequency of revaluation. So, depending upon the changes, the fair value of the property, plant, and equipment being revalued. Okay, so depende siya, how frequent ba? How frequent ba tayo? Every year ba? Every 2 years? Every 3 years ba? Nire-revalue natin yung asset. Now, the fair value of a revalued asset differs materially from the carrying amount or further revaluation is necessary. Now, kapag nakita natin that yung fair value ng asset is materially different sa kung ano yung carrying amount niya, yung cost minus accumulated depreciation, pag compare natin sa fair value niya, it is or there is material difference, then it may be necessary to revalue the asset. Now, PPE which experience significant and volatile changes in fair value necessitates annual revaluation. So, kung volatile daw yung changes ng fair value ng PPE, okay, it calls for an annual revaluation. So, every year. And for PPE with only significant changes in fair value, so pwede natin siya i-revalue from 3 to 5 years. Okay? So, it must be sufficient if that's the case. Now, revaluation of all items in the entire class. Now, ano ba yung i-revalue natin? Yung land lang ba? Yung building lang ba? Yung machinery lang ba? Or the land, building, and machinery? Or the entire class of property, plant, and equipment? Now, in PPE are revalued, the entire class of PPE should be revalued. So, dapat ina-avoid natin or yung sabi ng standard, yung purpose ng standard for a revaluation of the entire class of an item of PPE is of course to avoid the selective revaluation. Now, a class of PPE means the grouping of assets of a similar nature and use in an entity's operation. Examples: land, land and building, machinery, ships, aircrafts, motor vehicles, furniture and fixture, and office equipment. Okay? So kung ah ni-revalue natin yung land, dapat lahat ng land asset natin. Kung ni-revalue natin yung land and building, dapat lahat ng class of land and building. Kung ni-revalue natin yung machinery, dapat all classes of machinery. Okay? Now, assets with the same class of PPE are revalued simultaneously in order to avoid selective, as what I have said, no? Selective revaluation of assets and the reporting of amounts which are a mixture of the value at different dates. Okay? However, a class of assets may be revalued on a rolling basis as long as revaluation is completed within a short period of time and are kept up to date. Ayan. So, basis of revaluation. So, the revalued amount of PPE is based on the following. So, again, ano ba yung revalued amount ng PPE? It could be the fair value or the depreciated replacement cost. When you say fair value, it is determined by appraisal undertaken by professional qualified valuers. Now, for example, kung meron kang land and building purchased 5 years ago, during the current year, ano ba yung fair value ng land and building na yan? Okay? Ayan. So, of course, it is made by professional, competent valuers. Or the depreciated replacement cost. So, this is used if fair value is not available. So, kung hindi naman available yung fair value natin, let's use depreciated replacement cost. No? So, technically, itong depreciated replacement cost, actually, ano lang yan eh. If you buy the same asset, if you buy a brand new asset, ano yung value niya ngayon? Less the accumulated appreciation. I mean, the accumulated depreciation on the of the replacement cost. For example, may asset ka na binili last year, 2 years ago. Okay, tapos yung asset mo ngayon, the same asset, currently, you want to revalue. Kaso wala siyang available fair value. So, you can use the depreciated replacement cost, meaning, i-determine mo kung magkano yung cost if you buy the same asset today, less accumulated depreciation. So, i-depreciate mo siya. So, kunin mo lang yung proportionate accumulated depreciation ng old asset mo sa replacement cost ng new asset mo if it is to be bought. No? In that way, you will know the revalued amount of the old asset or of the asset that was purchased 2 years ago. Okay? So, ayan. Ito siya, no? Definition of terms. So, revalued amount. So, it's the fair value or the depreciated replacement cost of the PPE. So, you just have to choose one, no? So, but the priority here is the fair value. Now, the fair value is the price that would be received to sell an asset or paid to transfer a liability in an orderly transaction between market participants at the measurement date. So, alam na natin kung ano yung fair value, di ba? Well, the depreciated replacement cost, so ito lang yung replacement cost of PPE less corresponding accumulated depreciation, also known as the sound value. Okay? Ayan. Now, replacement cost is the current purchase price of the PPE. So, kung the same PPE siya, pero kung ngayon mo siya bilhin, what is the purchase price of that? That's the replacement cost. Tapos, yung accumulated depreciation niya is based din on the current purchase price of the same PPE. Then, replacement cost minus accumulated depreciation on replacement cost, then you get the sound value. Ang tawag doon, the depreciated replacement cost. So, may example or may illustration tayo later on para mas maintindihan natin. Now, the carrying amount naman, alam na natin yun, that's the historical cost minus the accumulated depreciation. Revaluation surplus naman is the fair value or depreciated replacement cost or the sound value, less the carrying amount of the PPE, also known as revaluation increment. Appreciation or revaluation increase naman is the excess of the revalued amount over the historical cost. While the net appreciation or revaluation surplus is the appreciation less the corresponding accumulated depreciation. Sige. So, to illustrate, the following data pertain to a machinery on the date of revaluation. So, you have machinery and accumulated depreciation. So, ito yung historical cost niya, 3 million. Accumulated depreciation niya, 750. The replacement cost naman is 4.8 million and the accumulated depreciation is 1.2 million. Ayan. So, given na lahat, no? Now, let's understand saan dyan yung sound value, saan dyan yung depreciated replacement cost. Okay? Saan dyan yung revaluation surplus. Yan. Okay. So, ito yung appreciation. That's 1.8 million. Paano yan kinuha? That's just the difference between the cost and the replacement cost. So, there is increase no, by 1.8 million. Okay? Yan. Ito namang 2,250,000, that's the carrying amount. That's the original cost minus accumulated depreciation. That's 2,250. That's the carrying amount. Now, ito namang 3.6 million, 3.6 million, that's the depreciated replacement cost or the sound value. Okay? So, it's just the replacement cost, ito yung 4.8 million minus 1.2 million. Okay? You get the depreciated replacement cost or the sound value. So technically, ito yung original cost, no, historical cost. Itong replacement cost naman na 4.8 million, ito yung cost kung bilhin mo yung property, plant, and equipment, o yung asset ngayon. Less accumulated depreciation on the replacement cost. So ito namang accumulated depreciation. Ito yung proportionate sa kung magkano tong accumulated depreciation on the historical cost. So yung sa replacement cost natin, kumbaga in-increase din natin yung accumulated depreciation. So may accumulated depreciation pa rin siya. Again, based on the accumulated depreciation sa kanyang historical cost. As computed, that's 1.2 million. Na ito na yung depreciated replacement cost natin or sound value. Okay? Ayan. So ito na yung revalued amount of the asset. Okay? Assuming na wala siyang, kasi for example, wala siyang fair value, no? So, ito siya. Kinumpute natin si depreciated replacement cost or the sum value. Ayan. Tapos, ito namang 1,350,000, ito yung revaluation surplus. So, kumbaga, that is the excess, no? That's the excess of the depreciated replacement cost or sound value over the original carrying amount or the carrying amount of the asset. That's 1,350,000. Okay? No, or you call that revaluation surplus or net appreciation. Ayan. Now, statement presentation and classification. So, the machinery is classified as PPE and presented as follows. So, machinery, 4.8 million less accumulated depreciation sound value. No, less accumulated depreciation na 1.2 million, then you get the sound value na 3.6 million. Okay? Now, the historical cost and the related accumulated depreciation shall be disclosed in the notes. So, still, makikita natin sa notes to financial statement natin yung original cost and accumulated depreciation ng asset. Ayan. Okay? As well as its replacement cost. No? Ayan. Pero, yung makikita natin sa balance sheet, the value ng machinery is the revalued amount. No? Okay? The 4.8 replacement cost, the accumulated depreciation on replacement cost, and the sound value. Ayan. Now, how to account for the revaluation? Okay, so there are two approaches in recording revaluation. You have the proportional approach and then you have the elimination approach. Now, in the proportional approach, the accumulated depreciation or revaluation is restated proportionately with the changes in the gross carrying amount of the asset so that the carrying amount of the asset after revaluation equals the revalued amount. So, yung ginagawa lang natin sa proportional amount is hindi natin technically or hindi natin kinuklose yung original accumulated depreciation. per se, no? But, kinukompute natin yung accumulated depreciation na proportionate sa original accumulated depreciation based on the increased gross cost, no, of the asset. Okay? While in an elimination approach naman, the accumulated depreciation is eliminated. Yung original accumulated depreciation, sinasara natin siya, thereby grossing up the value of the asset to its original cost. So against the gross carrying amount of the asset. And then, the net amount restated to the revalued amount of the asset. So meron tayong example, no? Okay, so case 1, no change in useful life. So the following data pertain to a machinery on revaluation date. So ito siya. Okay? How about ito yung replacement cost niya. Now, we have to compute kung magkano yung accumulated depreciation on the replacement cost of the asset or the machinery. Now, sabi dito that the machinery was revalued 5 years from the date of acquisition. So, kung 5 years na siya from the date of acquisition, after 5 years pa siya ni-revalue, meaning itong 2 million na accumulated depreciation niya is for 5 years din siya. Assuming straight line depreciation, yung 2 million, divide natin yan by 5, then we get the annual depreciation. Okay? So, to compute for the useful life of the machinery, yung accumulated depreciation natin na 2 million dito, divide natin siya by 5. That's 5. Then you get the annual depreciation na 400,000. Now, kung 400,000 yung annual depreciation natin, then yung cost na 8 million, i-divide natin sa by 400,000, meaning the original useful life pala ng asset is 20 years. Okay? Ayan. So, under proportional approach, okay? So, eto yan, no? This is how we compute the revaluation surplus or the net appreciation. So, again, meron tayong cost, meron tayong accumulated depreciation. Okay? Historical yan siya. Then we get 6 million as the carrying amount. The replacement cost, as stated, was 12 million. Tapos, paano ba kinuha si 3 million, no? So, kinuha yan si 3 million by, di ba sabi natin that 5 years life na yung asset? Di ba sabi dito that 5 years, ni-revalue siya 5 years from the date of acquisition. So, kung 5 years na siya ni-revalue from the date of acquisition and that's computed, 20 years yung useful life niya. So, 5 years divided by 20 years, then 25% na yung meaning 25% na yung used up na useful life ng asset, no? Ayan. So ito siya 25 years. Okay? That's the percent of accumulated depreciation. 25%. So the entry to record the revaluation is no, by the way, si 3 million, okay? Paano yan kinuha? So si 12 million, kung 25% na yung at the date of revaluation, no, at the date of revaluation, kung 25% na yung accumulated depreciation on the historical cost, on replacement cost, dapat 25% din yung accumulated depreciation niya. Kaya 12 million minus 25%, kaya meron tayong 3 million na accumulated depreciation on the replacement cost. You get the difference, then you get the depreciated replacement cost or the sound value na 9 million. Okay, so ito na yung revalued amount ng machinery. The difference, okay, ito yung increment, no, revaluation increment or kumbaga the excess of the replacement cost over the historical cost. Ito namang 1 million, that is the accumulated depreciation appreciation. Ayan. So, appreciation minus accumulated depreciation and appreciation, meron tayong net appreciation or the revaluation surplus na 3 million. Okay? Now, the question is, paano yan siya gawa ng entry under proportional approach? So, ganito lang, no? The appreciation na 4 million, debit ka. Machinery, 4 million. Credit, increase in accumulated depreciation na 1 million, di ba ito? Increase from 2 naging 3, kaya nag-increase ng 1 million. So, credit ka din dito accumulated depreciation for 1 million. And then, the revaluation surplus na 3 million as computed here. Okay? So, that's the journal entry under proportional approach. Now, under elimination approach naman, ginagawa natin is sinasara natin ito. Itong accumulated depreciation yan na 2 million, sinasara yan siya. So, we close it. we eliminate the accumulated depreciation, 2 million, against the machinery account. Okay? So kung yung carrying amount niya is 6 million, tapos sinara mo yung 2 million na accumulated depreciation, so ang effect niya is ginross up mo back to its cost or historical cost yung value ng machinery, di ba? O, dahil sinara mo si 2 million, okay? Tapos lumaki ng 2 million yung machinery. So naging 8 million. Tapos kinredit mo man siya against the machinery account na 2 million. So balik na naman ng 6 million. Okay? So naging 6 million na siya, no? After making this entry. Tapos, di ba, as computed, naging 9 million yung replacement cost niya. So from 6 million, naging 9 million. So yung machinery account should be debited for 3 million. And the excess is to revaluation surplus na 3 million. Okay? So for machinery, no, ito yun, 8 million. Di ba? That's the cost. Tapos kinredit mo siya, dito. Okay, by eliminating accumulated depreciation, so kinredit po si machinery. Tapos 6 million na siya. Tapos for purposes of recording the revaluation surplus, nag-debit ka na naman ng 3 million. So ito 'yon. So 6 million plus 3 million, 9 million na yung value ng asset, the revalued amount. Yung accumulated depreciation, dahil sinara siya dito, di ba, may 2 million balance siya. This one, no? So credit. Okay? Dinebit mo man siya dito, so zero na yung accumulated depreciation natin. So that's for elimination purposes, no? And then yung revaluation surplus natin, that's 3 million na. Okay? Credit yan. So revaluation surplus has a normal credit balance na 3 million. Okay. Yan. Now, what is the treatment for revaluation surplus? How do we treat revaluation surplus ba? So, revaluation surplus is reported as a component of other comprehensive income. So, nasa OCI siya. May be transferred to retained earnings when realized. So, every year, no? So, there is piecemeal realization of revaluation surplus to retained earnings. So, depende siya kung ano ba yung asset. Okay, kung ang asset ay depreciable, every time na nag-depreciate tayo ng asset, the revaluation surplus, part of which is also transferred to retained earnings. Now, what if land naman yung nirevalue natin? O, ang land, hindi naman yan nagde-depreciate. So, magpabilin yung revaluation surplus sa other comprehensive income, no? As revaluation surplus, hindi siya matatransfer sa retained earnings hangtod dili mabaligya ang land. Okay? So, the whole surplus is realized when the asset is retired or disposed. In case of depreciable, ayan. So, yun yung sinabi ko. So, hence the revaluation surplus is allocated or realized over the remaining useful life of the asset. No? So, tawag dyan piecemeal realization. And reclassified through retained earnings. So, again, nagpipiecemeal realization tayo if the asset is depreciable. Okay? Every time na nag-depreciate tayo, part of the revaluation surplus is also transferred to retained earnings. So, to continue the illustration, ito na siya, di ba? Yan. So, ito yon, no? So, to continue that, annual depreciation subsequent to the revaluation is, ito na siya, based on the revalued amount na, ayan, di ba? Yung ano natin, yung 20 years yung life ng asset, hindi naman nag-change yung useful life niya. 5 years na yung dumaan, so may 15 years. So meaning 15 years na natin siya i-depreciate. Okay? So yung 9 million, i-divide natin siya by 15 years, the remaining life. So yung depreciation natin every year is 600,000. Now, yung piecemeal realization of the revaluation surplus naman is, dahil 3 million ang revaluation surplus, i-divide mo din siya by the remaining useful life of the machinery. Divide 15. So, debit mo revaluation surplus, debit mo retained earnings, no, for 200,000. Ayan. So that's 3 million divided 15, no? That's 200,000. Okay, so accounting for revaluation, case 2, if there is a change, no, in life and residual value. Now, what if there is a change in the useful life and what if there is a change in residual value? So, ito yung ating information. So, si machinery is 8.5, may residual value na 500,000. accumulated depreciation is 3.2 million. The replacement cost is 12,400,000 and the residual value of the replacement cost is 400,000. So yung original useful life ng asset is 10 years. And the revaluation shows a revised useful life of 12 years. Okay, at the date na ni-revalue siya, naging 12 years na lang yung revaluation ng asset from the date of acquisition. Okay, so from the date of acquisition ng 12 years, hindi talaga yung from the date of, not from the date of, revaluation, but from the date of acquisition. Now, so, compute for the percentage of accumulated depreciation. It can be computed by using the age of the asset over original useful life, no? Or the amount of the accumulated depreciation over the depreciable amount based on cost. Now, sabi dito that 10 years na yung useful life ng asset. No? Okay? Now, sabi dito, if you use the age of cost, okay, if you use, if you use the age of the asset, that's annual depreciation, di ba yung annual depreciation natin, that's 8.5 million minus residual value ng 500,000, the depreciable amount is 8 million. I-divide natin siya by 10 years, the original useful life, then meron tayong 800,000 na annual depreciation. So, yan 3.2 million na accumulated depreciation, i-divide natin yun by 800,000, then we should get the, how old is the asset na ba? So 3.2 million divided by 800,000, then you should get 4 years na yung 4 years old na yung asset. Okay? So the percent of accumulated depreciation is equals to 4 years. The age of the asset divide 10 years, that's 40%. Now if you use the accumulated depreciation naman, no? That's 3.2 million divided by 8 million na depreciable amount. Okay, that's 3.2 million divided by not the cost, but the depreciable amount, that's 8.5, divide 500,000, minus 500,000, that's 8 million. 40% din siya. Yung age ng asset. So, 40%, i-multiply mo yan by 10 years, the original life of the asset. So, that's 4 years. Again, 4 years old na yung asset natin. Si machinery. Now, with change in, again, case 2 pa rin tayo na with change in useful life and residual value. So, to continue no, the illustration, eto na siya. So, again, ito yung cost, no? Ito yung replacement cost. So, 12.4 million minus 4 million, that's 12 million. Okay? And then, the accumulated depreciation on the original cost is 3.2 million, while the accumulated depreciation naman or replacement cost is 4.8 million. Okay, so as you can see, no? Di ba yung example natin dito is sa cost, yung residual value is 500,000. Okay? Pero pag compute na natin sa remaining pag-compute na natin sa remaining depreciable amount, yung ginamit na natin na residual value is 400,000. Okay? So, yung 400,000 na yan na ginamit natin in computing the remaining depreciable amount of the asset is actually the same as the residual value on the replacement cost. Okay? Kung ano yung replacement cost natin, kung ano yung residual value sa replacement cost natin, yun din yung gamitin natin as residual value in computing the remaining depreciable amount based on cost. Hindi yung original na 500,000. Yung 500,000 na ginamit natin kanina is that's just ginamit lang natin sa in computing how old is the asset. Okay, 'di ba? Yung depreciable amount natin dito is 8 million. That is just for purposes of okay, ang 8 million that's 8.5 million minus 500,000 na original residual value. That's just for purposes of computing the age of the asset. Kasi yan naman talaga yung ginamit natin when computing the accumulated depreciation. No cost method pa yung ginamit natin. But at the time na ni-revalue na natin yung asset, we computed the replacement cost, the depreciated replacement cost or the sound value, okay? Ginamit na natin yung 400,000 as well as na residual value based dito, as well as sa pag-compute natin sa remaining accumulated depreciation, and the remaining depreciable amount of the asset based on cost. So 400 na yung ginamit natin dito. So that's 8.5 minus 400, that's 8.1 million. 8.1 million minus 3.2 million na accumulated depreciation, ito yun, no? So that's 4.9 million. So remember na this is relevant, no, kasi the difference of this and the depreciated replacement cost is the revaluation surplus. So yung replacement cost natin is 12.4 million minus 400,000 na residual value and replacement cost, that's 12 million minus 4.8 million. Saan ba kinuha si 4.8 million? That's 40% pa din. Based pa rin siya sa 40%, no? Na age ng asset. So 12 million minus times 40%, you'll get 4.8 million. Accumulated depreciation on replacement cost. Okay, you get the difference, then you get the depreciated replacement cost or the sound value. This is now the revalued amount of the asset. So the difference of these two is the revaluation surplus. So ito na siya, no? Appreciation, 3.9 million. Walang increase sa residual value kasi the same yung residual value na ginamit natin, no? Minus 1.6 million, the increase, the accumulated depreciation on appreciation, no? So you get ito siya, 2.3 million as the revaluation surplus. So, the journal entries are as follows. So, machinery pa rin, 3.9 million. Ito. Tapos, accumulated depreciation na 1.6 million. Ito siya. And then, the revaluation surplus na 2.3 million as completed. So, for the depreciation naman, pag nag-depreciate na tayo, so ito ng 7.2 million. So, that's gonna be 7.2 million divided by 8 years. Now, bakit 8 years? Di ba 10 years yung original life? Pero 12 years pala. At the date of revaluation, 12 years pala yung original useful life from the date of acquisition. So, di ba from the date of acquisition, 4 years na yung age ng, or yung life ng asset, no? Yung age ng asset. So, yung 12 years minus 4 years, no? Age of the asset. So, may remaining 8 years na lang yung machinery natin. So, divide natin siya by 8, si 7.2 million, we get the depreciation na 900,000. Ayan. So, yung 900,000 na yan, that's the depreciation. Now, the revaluation surplus naman na 2.3 million, i-divided natin siya by 8 years to, kumbaga, to realize, no? For piecemeal realization. So, dinebit natin si revaluation surplus na 287,500, 287,500, no? Tapos nilipat natin siya sa retained earnings. Okay, that's the piecemeal realization of the revaluation surplus. Okay? Ayan. Now, let's talk about reversal, no? Reversal of a revaluation surplus. So, when you say revaluation decrease, there shall be charged directly against any revaluation surplus to the extent that the decrease is a reversal of a previous revaluation. Okay? And the balance is charged to expense or loss na yan siya. Yan. Kapag may revaluation decrease. Ito yung ano ba? May revaluation surplus. Pero after which, nag-decrease naman yung value ng asset. So that is revaluation decrease. What if the decrease is more than the amount of the revaluation itself? No? How to deal with that? So, may illustration tayo dito. On January 1, 2019, the statement of financial position shows the following data concerning an equipment. So, meron tayong equipment at cost na 5 million. Meron din tayong accumulated depreciation. 10-year life. 4-year expired. So, nag-expire na yung 4 years ng asset. So, kumbaga, the life or the age of the asset is 4 years. Okay? That's 2 million accumulated depreciation. Now, on the same date, the equipment is valued at a depreciated replacement cost of or sound value of 4.8 million. Okay? Ayan. So, on January 1, 2022, di ba, January 1, 2019 tayo nag-revalue. Okay? Tapos, there is revaluation decrease on January 1, 2022 that the fair value of the equipment daw is determined to be 1,050,000 na lang. Okay? So, again on January 1, 2019, ito yung information, the cost of the equipment and the historical cost and the accumulated depreciation. On the same date, ni-revalue siya, meron daw siyang depreciated replacement cost na 4.8 million. Okay? So, tapos pagka 2019, 2020, 2021, 3 years later, 1,050,000 na lang daw yung fair value ng asset. Ito siya. Now, so, the equipment, accumulated depreciation, the CA, the SV, and the RS. CA is the carrying amount, SV is the sound value, and the RS is the revaluation surplus. So, eto siya. Ayan. 5 million and 2 minus 2 million, that's 3 million. Okay? Tapos, 10-year life, 4 years na yung nag-expire. So, 4-year, o kumbaga 40% na yung age ng asset as against its useful life. No? Yan. So, meaning, itong 4.8 million pala, this is, itong 3 million na carrying amount niya is 60%. No? Kung ito 40%, ito naman 60%. To be depreciated over the remaining 6 years, no? Life of the asset. So, kung yung binigay niya dito is the sound value already, the 4.8 million, so lagay natin siya dito. This is already the sound value or the depreciated replacement cost. This is also 60%. So, meaning, kung i-gross up natin siya, that's 4.8 million divided by 60%, then we get 8 million as the replacement cost. Okay? So, 8 million, kung ito 60%, meaning the accumulated depreciation on the replacement cost is also 40%. So, 8 million times 40%, then you get 3.2 million. Okay? Ayan. So, kumbaga, ginross up lang natin to get the replacement cost. No? So, from there, we can now get the appreciation, 3 million, no? The difference, tapos the accumulated depreciation on appreciation na 1.2 million, tapos the revaluation surplus or the net appreciation for 1.8 million. In 2019, ito yung journal entries. Debit equipment for 3 million, 1.2 million credit accumulated depreciation, and the revaluation surplus for 1.8 million. Now, the depreciation for 2019 is dahil dahil 40% na yung age ng asset, so that's 10 years times 40%, that's 4 years. So 10 years minus 4 years, may 6 years life na lang yung asset. No? So that's 4.8 million, the revalued amount or the sound value, divided by the remaining useful life na 6 years, so that's 800,000. Depreciation for 2019. Of course, the piecemeal realization would be 1.8 million divided by 6 years din. Ayan. 300,000. The same entry will be for 2020 for the depreciation and the revaluation surplus, piecemeal realization, and for 2021, the same lang. Okay? The question is the entry on January 1, 2022, no? So, ito yun siya. Ito siya, no? So, kumbaga, in-update natin siya. Okay? Per book, ayan. 8 million minus 5.8 million. So, di ba ito yun siya? 8 million. So, ito na yung nilagay natin dito sa equipment section. Okay? Yung replacement cost niya, the date na nag-devalue tayo. Minus yung accumulated depreciation niya, that's 5.6 million. Bakit 5.6 million? Kasi di ba, 4 years na yung life niya. 4 years, the date na nag-revalue tayo dito. Tapos in 2019, 5 years na siya. In 2020, 6 years na siya. In 2021, 7 years na siya. Okay? So yung accumulated depreciation natin dito would be 5.6 million. Oh, saan ba yan kinuha again? 8 million times 70%. That's 5.6 million. O kung gusto nyo talaga, that's 3.2 million plus 800,000 plus 800,000 plus 800,000, still 5.6 million yan. Okay? Ayan. So, 8 million minus 5.6 million, that's 2.4 million. Pero, that's the carrying amount on January 1 to, as updated no on January 1, 2022. Pero sabi dito that the depreciated, the fair value of the equipment is 1,050,000 na lang daw. So, kung 1,050,000 na lang siya, meaning 1,050,000 na lang yung fair value niya or yung revalued amount niya. Okay? Or yung sound value niya. Okay? Ayan. So kung 1 million na lang yung sound value niya or yung depreciated replacement cost niya, yung revalued amount niya on January 1, 2022, 2.4 million yung carrying amount niya. No? So meaning class, there is revaluation decrease. There is revaluation decrease. Now, kunin na naman natin yung replacement cost. Kung ito yung fair value niya, kung yung accumulated depreciation is 70%, meaning 30% na to. 30% na lang to. To get the 100%, i-gross up mo siya. So, i-divide mo siya, si 1,050,000 by 30%. So, meron kang 3.5 million. So, kung ito 100%, ito 30%, meaning, multiply mo siya by 70%, then you get the accumulated depreciation. Okay? Ayan, na 2,450,000. So, there is decrease, no? Nag-decrease by 4.5 million. Accumulated depreciation, nag-decrease by 3.150, no? And there is, from 2.4 million, naging 1,050,000. So, there is 1,350,000 na revaluation decrease. 1,350,000. 1,350,000. Ayan. So, on January 1, on January 1, 2022, ito na yung entry natin. But of course, tingnan muna natin yung mga, yung T-account ng equipment. Di ba yung equipment may 5 million yung cost? Nadagdagan ng 3 million dahil nag-revalue tayo on January 1, 2018, so naging 8 million. Tapos may revaluation decrease na 4.5 million. So there should be a balance of the equipment na 3.5 million. So yung balance ng equipment natin, nag-credit tayo dito ng equipment for 4.5 million due to this one or this one. Okay? 4.5 million. Yung accumulated depreciation naman natin, di ba? 2 million yun plus 1.2 million, that's 3.2 million. 2 million on the original amount, 1.2 million sa revaluation. Ayan, 3.2 million. Plus, yung 3 years na depreciation natin na 800,000 each year. So, that accounts for 2.4 million. No? So, 3.2 plus 2.4, that's 5.6 million yung accumulated depreciation natin. Even it naman yun siya dito. Pero, naging 2,450 na lang siya, di ba, na balance. And as seen here, lumiit siya by 3,150,000. So, may debit tayo dito for 3,150,000 accumulated depreciation. Kaya, i-debit natin yung accumulated depreciation for its decrease. No? 3,150,000. Ayan. Tapos, di ba, meron tayong revaluation surplus. Okay? Sige. Tingnan natin yung revaluation surplus natin dito. Di ba yung revaluation surplus natin dito is, eto siya, 1.8 million. Di ba? May credit balance siya. On 2019, nag-revaluation nagtanggal tayo ng 300,000. On 2020, nagtanggal na naman tayo ng 300,000. In 2021, nagtanggal na naman tayo ng 300,000. So how much did we remove as value of the revaluation surplus for 3 years? That's 300, 300, 300, so that's 900,000. So 1.8 million na revaluation surplus, tinanggalan natin ng 900,000 for 3 years, so may balance pa na revaluation surplus for 900,000. Yun yung i-close muna natin for on January 1, 2022. So i-close muna natin yung revaluation surplus. Ito yon, di ba? 1.8 million na balance, no? Yan. So minus this one for 2019 to 2021. So may balance pa rin yung revaluation surplus na 900,000. So i-close muna natin siya. And the remainder is to revaluation loss. Okay? Revaluation loss natin is 450,000. So saan ba natin makuha si 450,000? That is the revaluation decrease na 1,350. 1,350 minus yung balance ng revaluation surplus natin na 900. So may 450 pa. Yung 450 hindi naman siya hindi na siya, kumbaga 900 lang ang na-absorb ng balance ng revaluation surplus. So the excess na 450 goes as or will be recorded as revaluation loss. Revaluation loss, 450,000. Pagka December 31, yung depreciation natin is based on 350,000. Okay? So that's the 1,350,000 divided by, okay, again yung accumulated depreciation natin, yung depreciation natin, no, for December 31, 2022 would be 1,050,000, the revalued amount, no, divided by the remaining life, di ba? 70 years na yung age ng asset. So 10 years times 70 years, that's 7 years. So may 3 years na lang na naiwan na useful life ng asset. So 1,050,000 divided by 3 years, so the depreciation would be, ayan, 350,000 each year. Again, 1,050,000 divided by 3 years. That's 350,000 of depreciation on December 31, 2022. Ayan. Now, sale of revalued asset. So when revalued asset is sold, all accounts relating thereto shall be closed in order to determine properly the gain and loss. So lahat ng account na related to the asset to be sold, for instance, the revaluation surplus, the accumulated depreciation, and the cost of the asset, kailangan siya i-close para malaman natin how much is the gain or loss of the asset. So the gain or loss is the selling price minus the carrying amount, no, of the asset or of the revalued asset. So on the date of exact illustration, on the date of sale, the revalued building and the revalued accounts have the following adjusted balances. So ito siya. May building balance na 50 million, may accumulated depreciation na 30 million, may revaluation surplus balance na 4 million, may selling price na 22 million. So, to compute the gain or loss, that's gonna be selling price na 22 million minus carrying amount. No? So, yung carrying amount natin, simple lang. No? Yung accumulated depreciation natin is 30, yung building natin, 50 million, accumulated depreciation, 30 million. So, 50 minus 30, that's 20 million. So, meron tayong gain or loss na 2 million. That's 22 million selling price minus the carrying amount na 20 million. So, may 2 million na gain. Okay, gain. So, to close, debit cash for the selling price, cash received. I-close yung accumulated depreciation na 20 million. Debit. I-close ang cost ng building na 50 million. Okay? Tapos, i-record ang 2 million na gain or loss. Gain on sale of the building. Siyempre, may balance tayo ng revaluation surplus. So, kailangan natin siya i-close kasi na-realize na siya. Okay? It will no longer be realized on a piecemeal basis. But, dahil nabenta na yung asset, so the entire amount na revaluation surplus, 4 million, will automatically be transferred to, ayan, retained earnings. Credit retained earnings, 4 million. Ayan. Okay? So, eto naman yung disclosures related to the revaluation, the effect of the effective date of revaluation, whether an independent valuer was involved ba sa pag-revalue ng asset, ano yung method and significant assumption applied when estimating the fair value. So, we have a lot of methods in determining the fair value. Ano yon? Disclose that. The extent to which the fair value was determined directly by reference to observable prices in an active market or recent market transactions on an arm's length term or was estimated using other valuation techniques. The historical cost, syempre, the historical cost and the carrying amount of each classes of revalued PPE and the revaluation surplus, okay, indicating the movement for the period and any restriction on the distribution of the balance to shareholders. So those are the relevant disclosures, okay, related to revaluation of an item of property, plant, and equipment. Okay, so that's it for our discussion on revaluation. And please answer the activity sent in the Kuiper LMS. Thank you.